It's just that, I don't know any other way to look at it. He wanted to go to heaven. What other reason would he have to change if he didn't want to go to heaven? None. Because when you submit yourself to God and say, I'm going to serve God, I'm going to do God's will, what are you really saying? What are you saying? I want to go to heaven. Are you trying to say something? Huh? Okay, if you really think about Paul's example in saying, I want to go to heaven, what did he do to try to go to heaven?
He changed.
How?
He got to change his heart. He turned from his old ways.
What was his old ways?
Doing whatever he wanted to do.
So what you're saying is, a person that do whatever they want to do can't go to heaven?
Most of the time, can't.
No, they can't.
None.
You don't try to put a 50 in there. I like loving the way she did. Well, you know, she's like, no, you can't go. I'm sorry. He said, if you lose your life, he'll give you a life. So you lose, but you get something in the process. What else did he have to do?
Jesus also made that same statement when he wanted to go back here. He said, not my will, but thy will.
Thy will, that is right. And when they asked him at a young age, what was he doing? What did he tell them? I'm about my Father's business. So his focus in life was what? To go back to heaven. So I got to do something in the process. People think today, I cannot do nothing to go to heaven. How about this one? I'm a good person. I don't bother nobody. I'm at church every Sunday morning. I go to church every Sunday morning, but during the week I do what I want to do.
I was talking about that fellow too. He did everything for his youth book. He told me there's one thing he got to change, and whatever he said.
So there's a lot of preparing to go to heaven then. When you get ready to buy a house, anybody bought a house, what do you have to do to get ready to buy a house? What are the things you have to do? Amen?
Praise him.
Praise the Lord.
Not agent.
So you got to do what? What if you decide not to work? Well, I need you to send me this paperwork. I already sent you that paperwork. Send it again. If you don't send it, what's going to happen? So when they tell you to send it, what you do? How about again? And again? You send it. So our work for the Lord has to be again, again, and again. Because we want to go to heaven. See, we get caught up in one fundamental thing. Look at what I've done in my life. Did God ask anybody what they've done in their life? He said what? Change. Did you have to write down a list when they were being converted in Acts chapter 2? Did they have to write a list before they were converted? Did they?
No.
He said what? You accept. Let's see what Paul said. Acts chapter 23. Realizing this. Opposition gonna come. Haters gonna come. Things gonna happen. People not gonna like you. People gonna talk against you. People gonna talk about you. I don't care how good you are. You know, I looked out for those person, they still talking about you. They still talk about you. But you can't get caught up in that because you want to go to heaven. You can't let that hold you back. One person shouldn't hold you back from going to heaven. One decision shouldn't hold you back from a lot of us are one decision from going to heaven. One decision. If I only change this one thing in my life and do this, I'll be all right. That speaks volumes for the kind of people that we are. Because what do you tell the man? We told him what? One thing, right?
One thing.
See, we've done a lot of good things and do a lot of good things. But it's that one thing. And it's sad to say, he'd have never changed that one thing. Sad. One thing. Good people. Raised right, respectful. Don't mistreat people. Don't steal from people. Don't talk about people. Just a basic good person. But there's one thing we got to do. We got to submit our lives to God. And that's where we fail. Let's see what happens.
Acts 23:1.
And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God.
There it is. He said all good conscience, didn't he? But was that going to get him to heaven? Paul said, I've lived in all good conscience. He's trying to say, y'all all right. I'm not saying that you're not a bad, all good conscience. See what happens. Prove that point.
And the high priest, Ananias, commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth.
Smack him in the mouth. How many going to take that? Smack him right in the mouth. Did Paul say anything wrong? Did Paul curse anybody? Paul said, before I've lived in all good conscience before men, and he smacked him in the mouth. How many of us going to take that? It's a lot. Pray for me, I ain't got there yet. That'd be a knee-jerk reaction. Come out of nowhere. I'll forgive me. But we got to get there. That's what he said.
Verse 3. Then Paul said unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall, for sittest thou to judge me after the law.
Paul said, one told you to do it. Just because you tell somebody to do something, does that exonerate you? You're just as guilty. Just as guilty. See, what we do is, we think because we haven't done the act, and we look white, covered up, Paul said, no, you're not. You still dirty too. Paul said, you dirty too. If I tell Mel to go and do something to Joe, am I dirty? But I didn't do nothing. Paul said, you're a whitewashed wall. Looks clean, looks good, but it's dirty on the backside. We do that in the church sometimes. We do that amongst brethren. If we don't like something, we'll stick somebody else on you. So you're just as guilty. What is that?
And commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law. Verse 4. And they that stood by said, Revealest thou God's high priest? Then Paul said, I wist not, brother, that he was the high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. But when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council.
So you got two groups of people, Sadducees and Pharisees. So we got two groups of people. You can start some trouble, can't you? That's why the Lord doesn't want the church to be divided, because you got two different sets of people believing two different things. What's going to happen?
Right.
If this group believes something, this group believes something, what's going to happen? We got to come to an agreement that we need to agree on what God wants us to do, right? But if we never agree to that, what's going to happen? It's going to be a problem. That's what's wrong with the church today. One person say, sprinkle. One person say, run around the building. One person say, tarry. One person say, just get up and scream. One person say, touch the radio. We got a problem. Because there's too many people saying something, but we're missing one thing. What did God say? That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? See, then we got a problem. If Joe don't agree with what I say, what's supposed to be the final common denominator as it relates to God? What's supposed to be the final common denominator? The Word. The Word should take care of that, right? Should fix that. Should clear that up. If you were working on a car, Joe, and you wanted to get the ratio that you're supposed to gap the plug back in the day, how would you find that out?
You got to go to the book to get it.
What if you just gap them the way you want to gap them? I'm just going to gap them. Just going. See, people don't know anything about that. You have to gap plugs a long time ago.
Yeah.
If you gap them wrong,
Then it's not going to fire right.
it's not going to fire right. Before, you couldn't gap before the same way you do gym, just won't work. You got to go and consult the book. And the book will tell you what? The right fire mechanism for those plugs. And if you do that, it's going to be what? Right. You got to consult the book sometime. We don't know, we go, we consult a map, don't we? Or we GPS it, or we find out, we get the correct information. Today, we don't get the correct information. We go on what we think we know. What we think we know may be the one thing that we need to change to go to heaven. Because I think I know.
I met this gentleman last week when we got married, and so I said a Bible study with him. And so he said, Yeah, man, sure. He's a pretty knowledgeable guy to Bible. And so I was thinking, just like what you just said, in order for things to work right the way God intended for it, you've got to go to the book in order to do that, because he's very knowledgeable. And I know in order for us to not have any kind of friction there, we got to let the book speak for itself. And in that way, if the book is there, it's not me saying this or he saying that. We got to let the book speak for itself.
We live in a society now where we take information from hearsay, they said, and I don't know what they said. And we culminate that in our mind and we draw a conclusion. I believe we're smarter than that. We live in a society now that makes things easy for us so we don't think anymore. I always remember when something is easy, it's not allowing you to think anymore. Because they made the system easy so you won't use your brain. The brain is a very powerful tool. It can sort. It can reason. It can understand right and wrong, but you have to have a palate for it, the standard for it to reason from. And when we reason from what God says, I can promise you we'll always be right. But when you reason for what man says, everything's going to be wrong then. Because man is successful to do what? Will he lie? Will he cheat? Will he scheme you? So you can't trust him, can you? When the Bible says, let God be true and every man a liar, what is he saying? Look to what God says. But we listen to what man says a little bit too much. No man supersedes God. See what he says.
Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee, of the hope and
So
the
Paul is going to start to mess it. You got Sadducees, you got Pharisees. So if Paul is a Pharisee, who the Pharisees going to agree with? They're going to agree with Paul. Let's see what happens.
of the hope and resurrection of the dead.
Hope and resurrection. See, the other group didn't believe in that. So we're going to have a problem. Now, if one group believes in baptism and the other group don't believe in baptism, who's right? Let's go to the Bible. The Bible's right, right? Well, I don't believe it. I ain't got to do it. God said it. Now, who's right? God's right. Oh, he's wrong. God to know about it's not right. It's right. Listen to this.
The hope and the resurrection of the dead I am called in question. And when he said,
So Paul said, I'm called in question on the hope and the resurrection from the dead. If you don't believe in the resurrection from the dead, can you believe in Jesus Christ? You're negating Jesus Christ, right? Because you don't believe he's who he said he was. He didn't rise, so therefore you don't believe in Jesus Christ. So we got a fundamental problem. There's a lot of people in America that say, I don't believe in God. God doesn't exist. God is nothing to me. Those words will haunt that person to the grave. Because you got to stand before God and give an account one day. And those very words may be echoed in your hearing. I'm sorry, I want to go to heaven. Remember when you said you didn't believe? See what he said.
verse 7, and when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
They had a problem, didn't they? One believed what? Resurrection. The other one believed what? No resurrection. So we got a fight going on now, right? So how do we fix that? The Bible has to fix it. And I promise you, no matter how smart you are, the Bible is always going to be right. You can't refute the Bible. But man has twisted and tricked people and said things that people believe what man says. We need to believe what God says. See what it says.
The multitude was divided. Verse 8, for the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there are...
Who's right? Who's right? The Pharisees are right? Why? Because Jesus came into the world and what? Died. On the third day he did what? Who's right? Pharisees are right. Sadducees are what? Wrong. See, people all the time say, well, you know there is no right and wrong. Yes, it is. Prove it. Stealing. Is it right or wrong? What if you just borrowed it and didn't tell nobody?
That's stealing.
What if you just put it in your pocket and getting ready to bring it back? play on those things.
Yeah.
It's still what?
Stealing.
Well, I was going to bring it back. My kids could never get away with that. This is what I would always ask them. Was it yours? No. Were you supposed to touch it? No. Well, you know what's next. Then I just borrowed it. That doesn't work. You have to draw a line so they can understand. Because what we'll play with, when you say that, you say, well maybe he was going to bring it back. Did you get away with that, Jim, Papa Joe? Linda? You just couldn't get away with it. Well, you know, I was going to bring, I just moved it. Their perspective was what? You should have never touched it. You should have never touched it. So you already wrong because you put your hands on it. I don't care if it was sitting in the middle of the floor, you're supposed to touch it. Unless I tell you to touch it. But now we play on words with kids. I have kids tell people, well, you're not going to do nothing to me, I'll tell my mama. Your mama's wrong too. She'll allow you to live like that. That's wrong.
And there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Pharisees' part arose and strove, saying, we found no evil in this man. But if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against God.
There we go. Who gonna win fighting against God? Loser. We have people, man, that even plot the very work of the Lord. I'm not gonna do. Brother, when you say you're not gonna do, you saying that to the Lord. See, what we do sometimes, we think, well, Mel's here, Miss Mary's here, Joe's here, people here, they're working. And we say, well, I ain't going to help them. You're not saying that to them, you're saying that to God. And I promise you, God don't forget. God is a record keeper. When you try to put somebody down, who you really putting down? You're putting God down. When you put your brother or sister down, you're putting God down. And God going to remember that. He's going to remember that. Who want blessings for their kids? What if those blessings ran through you by how you treated other people?
You'd be in trouble.
You'd be in world trouble. Someone's be in trouble. If the blessing ran through me to them, based on what I did. In the Old Testament, he said that the sins of the father goes through the first, second, and third generation, right? So if that's true for the sins, then what about the blessings? Same concept. Through the Father. When he blessed the world through Abraham, did we get a part of that blessing? He said, I bless your what? Descendants. For what you done. Sometimes we miss our blessings because we won't do nothing. Blessings just missed. And we swear we're doing all right. But you miss your blessing. Miss your blessing. When you have an opportunity to do for the Lord, you miss your blessing. Money problems, we miss our blessing. Want to get ahead, can't get ahead.
Verse 10. And when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing least Paul should have been pulled in pieces.
So when people disagree with you, they get violent, don't they? But God is right regardless. If a person came to me and said, well, Aaron, I don't believe in what you believe, and I told a guy that today. He said, I said, well, the devil will never leave you alone. He said, I disagree with you, and I think the devil will leave you alone. I said, well, you can use that for your philosophy, but I still hold my firm. The devil will never leave you alone. So, I mean, you can talk all you want to, it won't change me. I mean, you can agree that he might leave you alone, but he's not going to leave me alone. Maybe the reason he won't leave you alone because you belong to him anyway. I could have said that, but it would have been me. I didn't say that. He don't have no reason to bother you because you his anyway. But I let that go. They got the challenge that I'm going to say I'm going to change. Well, then I think you're wrong. Well, I think you're wrong. Because the devil is not going to leave you alone. He's what I think the devil's advocate in all that I do. I'm not talking about the devil. I'm talking about the devil himself. He's going to ride you. Now maybe somebody disagrees with me. Somebody can challenge that if you want to. You left your alone, Freddie man? Freddie man was dreaming. Carolyn, you left your alone?
No.
But you hope's a good girl. As sweet as she can be. He not blessed with hope. Not hope. This is nice. I told that story last time. She said she told my wife to call her to come to church. She wasn't going to answer the phone. Not hope.
No, I didn't say I wasn't. I didn't make it to the phone. And I said, well, I'll have to call her back. But then I said, yes, I do. I got to call her back.
Satan don't play, does it? He gets you with small things, don't he? Your very service. When he know that you trying to serve the Lord, then he going to beat you to death. Dude, no, he going to be. He going to tell you ain't got to do nothing. That's nobody going to say. You got to overcome that.
I asked her one time, she was about to die, so I asked her, I said, the devil still trying to kill you. And I asked her, I said, well, how old do you have to be before the devil stop tempting you? She said, well, I'm 90 something. She said, he's still tempting me, so I really don't know. I can't answer that. So, if he's still, and you would think that you got to know what the devil, but the devil knows exactly your thoughts, your concerns. He knows all of that. And he works on those very same things that you have problems with.
And how he works on you is the things that you really don't want to do. He tell you not to do them. But you got to be man and woman up to go what? Go on anyway. Half the people come out here on Wednesday night, get to the house, I don't want to go to church now. That's just fundamental, but you get up and go anyway. Because let's just see it. You worked all day, you're tired, and then you got to come down here and fight with the kids. Man, that's just a lot of work. That's just human to say what? I don't want to go. But what do? It's not like saying you don't want to go, that's just normal. That's just human. But when you give in to that, that's when Satan got you. I was sure the man said he wasn't going to go, and he went. One said he was going to go, and didn't go. Who was justified? The one that said he wasn't going to go. So that's going to happen. Let's see this.
Commanded the soldiers to go down and take him by force from among them and bring him into the castle. Verse 11. And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said,
Who stood by him? The Lord is there, isn't he? Even in your afflictions, he's there, isn't he? In your trouble, he said the Lord did what? Stood by him. So when you're in your affliction, your pain, and you're in your darkest moment, man, stick with the Lord. But first realize that I follow the Lord. First thing I got to do is get on track with him. Make sure my service to him is correct. Don't follow him in vain. Don't follow him in vain, man. It's one thing I never wanted to do, man, is serve the Lord and serve him in vain. Do all of that and still have a possibility of being lost. I didn't want to do that in my life. I felt like that was a failure to me and my family. To even do that, to lead them down that road of destruction. You're going to serve something, serve the Father. Serve the God the way he wants to serve. That was the only way I knew how to do it, because I wasn't going to listen to what no man tell me. He couldn't tell me nothing. I already knew that. I had to see what the Bible had to say. And when the Bible tells you to do something, you have no choice but to what? You have no choice but to do it. That's solid. Something you can hold on to. But the man, he'll change on you tomorrow. I've heard of congregations when the man said, it's not proper to eat meat. Then what the congregation going to do? Lying, sitting out eating meat. They don't sneak and eat something, though. I'm going to tell the truth. Come tell me I can't have no fried chicken. I'll eat right now, so don't even try. I won't eat around you. But I ain't going to stop. Then the next man comes and says, proper to eat meat. Everybody change. How about stick with God, where God is consistent? He don't change that. Stick with the God of heaven. I live on what God said. And if I'm wrong, God is still what? God's still right, regardless of what happens in life. He's still right. See what he says.
And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, be of good cheer, Paul, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so much thou bear witness also in Rome.
What is he saying? What is he telling Paul? Paul's in this dungeon, Paul's in this dark moment. These people want to kill him. He says, stand by. He says, don't worry about nothing. You must testify just like you did here in Rome. What is he saying? What's he telling Paul?
Same way I purify you today, I'm going to stand by your kids.
What else?
For him to keep going.
Is anything going to happen to Paul in that prison? Because he says you got to go to Rome, right? So nobody can hurt Paul, because God said he going to what? You're going to Rome. He said, so whatever you're going through now, don't worry about that. Be of good cheer. They may rough you up a little bit, but I got something set for you to go to Rome. Don't worry about that. We look at our circumstances, determines that's where we always going to be. But God has something greater planned for us. If we only go through that little bit we're going through. Only go through that. And I promise you, he got something greater planned for us. But what gets in our way is that one little thing I don't want to do. And Satan works on that all the time. He works on it with me, and he works on it in human beings.
Living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Father alone will know.